Thanks very much. Let me just briefly say who EPLO is. We're the European Peacebuilding and Liaison Office, independent platform of civil society organizations, over 30 that are working on peace and conflict issues based in Europe, but working everywhere in the world. Out of transparency, we are funded in part. We have a grant from the IcSP, and many of our member organizations are as well. So I wanted to mention that, and we also contributed to the public consultation on the midterm review. I'll say a little bit mostly about the IcSP and try not to be repetitive because a lot of good points have already been mentioned. I think there's been also points mentioned about the current sort of unraveling world and the crises that are faced around the world, but also the opportunity for the EU to be a global peace actor within the framework of the new global strategy, but also as the EU, a values-based body that is one of the world's leading aid donors. The opportunity is there. Within this conversation, I can't help but pick up on the security issues that were mentioned, and around defense, there's a lot of focus in just the fact that there's a potential new facility called a peace facility, that we are addressing the need to address important and legitimate security issues and concerns is absolutely valid. It will not and does not automatically lead to peace. So I think that's something to put out there. In terms of the IcSP, the evaluations, the last one done in June of 2017, was extremely positive, calling it critical and increasingly relevant. In the Commission's own midterm report in December, called for the capacity of the EU to react speedily to the unforeseen and to address key security issues globally must be further strengthened. We believe that it's the only external financing instrument with a specific focus on conflict prevention and peace building, and it's really an invaluable tool for helping the EU live up to its values and perform as an effective global peace actor. This is the view that's shared by organizations within our membership and other civil society organizations that are working in this area. We also note that the references to the IcSP, particularly in the Budget Committee's report, talk a little bit more on the border security side of things, and we see the IcSP being unique and different because it contributes to peace and stability worldwide. I just wanted to highlight a few of the interesting things about the IcSP that are not related to border security and that are extremely important in addressing the long-term concerns, particularly around the implementation of the UN Security Council Resolution 1325 on women, peace and security. I could go on and on and on, but I won't. On the rehabilitation, reintegration of victims of armed conflict was absolutely critical and crucial in long-term stability and peace in the countries where these horrors have been happening. Also on the promotion and development of the organization of civil society and its participation in political processes, massive shrinking space issues. So when I think of IcSP, those are the kinds of things that I think of. Also early warning, conflict analysis, mediation, and peace support. We're really happy to note in the Chair's report positive elements about the IcSP, around speed, around flexibility. I'd also want to highlight the range of actors that it can support and draw sort of also focus on how it helps to implement the important women, peace and security agenda that the EU has signed up to. I'll just touch also on the staffing of the IcSP. The interesting thing about this instrument is that there are dedicated staff in regional locations and also in Brussels that know conflict issues. So they know what kinds of projects to identify and to fund, and they know how to follow them. And I worry about a different configuration of who would sort of oversee and who understands that. I think we use a lot of the same language when we're talking about conflict prevention and peace building, but the African Peace Facility, for example, is not peace building per se. And I think we need to make sure that we're all talking about the same things, and I worry about the instrument and sort of what it's meant to do, as it's been said, to be fit for purpose, whether that would be done under different hands. On the EIDHR, I think others have spoken eloquently. I'm going to skip over it, but say in similarity that what it does in terms of human rights defenders is essential. It's also in a unique position, values-based, and it's a niche instrument. In the next MFF, we really think the IcSP should be maintained It's absolutely essential in terms of the EU's current ambitions as a global peace actor. When I think flexible, this is one of the only areas I think flexible in terms of EU money. It's also flexible in who its partners are and who can receive it. We have a lot of questions, a little bit like Andrew Sheriff. I thought the image of the chest of drawers with the different boxes and envelopes was interesting. The assumption that merging it all together is going to make it more simple, I think, and couldn't agree more that the devil is in the details. And this IcSP is known as the most flexible of all of the instruments. You're going to merge it together at what risk? And conflict prevention, peace building really are at the heart of this. And I think if we're talking about overarching policy, it's quite clear, and the global strategy sets out what the ambition is in this area. I don't want to be much longer. I just note that the committee's opinion for the budget, the committee's opinion for the Budget Committee's report on the next MFF calls for the ENI and the IPA to be maintained as separate instruments. And I think given the specific roles of IcSP and EIDHR, and what they do to help the EU live up to its commitments in peace building and human rights, that we really argue that they should also be preserved as independent instruments in the next MFF. Thank you.